Hi and welcome to this week's video. The idea is that I'm going to get the rudder cable run position going through the fuselage, so cutting holes, making up fair leads, making sure everything goes as it should do, and hopefully do a little bit more work on the seat so we get that a bit closer to being able to sit in the aircraft and make aeroplane noises. We'll see how we get on. Come on then. Okay, so I've got a wire attached to the rudder horn going all the way forward. I put this clamp in here, holding it so I know there's a tube that goes through here, or will be going through. On the drawing it goes through the spar, but for me I'm taking it above the spar carry through. So I'm just checking to make sure it's going to clear everything here. I'm going to mark the height it's going through here, because there's going to be another little fair lead at this sort of point here. So I'm going to put just putting a mark there, and I'm going to put a mark there as well, just so I've got an idea of what height these things are going through. So it's going back like that. So it's either going to have a tube here or somewhere along there. So I know it's at the same height as the joint there, slightly higher there. We go through here, we're clear of that that carry through. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this wire and I'm going to put it underneath here about the right width in. It's going to run all the way along, and that way I can see how far in everything's going to be. We'll try everything out to get the positions right. From the plan, the rudder cable outlet is just behind the front horizontal stabilizer mount, and part way up the fuselage. Right, so worked out it's there, and here it's pretty much down to the same level, so it would be just behind. It's exiting out about there, so it's going to exit out just above this longeron here. So now we know where that's going to be. I think, looking at the way the cable's sort of set here, that's not too far off its sort of natural sort of position. And when we look at down here, I don't know if we can sort of see, this cable would be rubbing against this little lot here if we allowed it to exit its natural position. So by putting it across to there, where they're sort of saying it should exit, and we now look down, that should be clear of the woodwork there. I'm not quite sure how it will play out on that side, but we'll find out. May have to put a fair lead in up here. Excuse me. Fair lead over there to keep the cable free, but I think, looking at the height, it will go through with quite a bit of clearance just about here, which will be okay. Now I've got that little bit sorted out, I can start putting in the fair leads at the front end. I won't put the fair lead in at the rear until we've got the skin on, but I can mark that so I know where it's going to be and take the measurements for it. Always pre-planning. So this is the material supplied by Fisher to act as the cable guides for the rudder cable, and that's what I'm going to use going through there. I'm just going to make up corner blocks first, and I'll drill the corner blocks ready for this, and I'll use this for the exit fair leads because it's absolutely perfect for that. But going through here, I'm not particularly keen on just a piece of tube trying to be held in place through the plywood and stuff like that. and there's no need to put extra blocking in. But I've got these fair leads. They've got an 8mm hole in the middle, so that's great for it. They're just over 12 and nearly ½ inch, 12.5mm diameter on the outside of this this tube section. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a mark in here using a 8mm brad bit with that right in the corner. That's where I want it. So now I've got a small little mark there, and I'll drill that through with a ½ inch brad bit. I'll do that both sides, and then I'll glue that into position, and that'll act as a good tough fair lead for the cable going through. So there are my fair leads going through. I roughened up the surface where it makes contact with the plywood, and sort of ferrule section coming out the back there. I've roughened that up, and then it's got a small epoxy bead going around it, sort of bonded in place each side. And then here is the blocks, the corner blocks drilled with the tube inserted in there. I roughened up the outside of that plastic tubing, so that's all bonded together, just waiting for that to cure off. Then I can run the cables through to the rudder pedals, and just double check on everything going towards the back end, including putting I put the tail wheel assembly into place, I think, and have a look to see how that's going to be in relation to the tailplane stays or struts. So as suspected, where the cable goes through by this diagonal, it is touching it, so I'm going to put a little fair lead into there. So I'll make that up and I'll show you what that's like. So there's the fair lead that I've put in place for the cable. As you can sort of see, the cable's resting on the sort of inner edge there, where it would be against the that diagonal piece. So this is doing its job. The bit of wood here is literally just to hold that tube in place. I've made it, relatively light. So I'm just working on the seat rest section. So this bit here will be glued to the top of the front spar carry through. You can sort of see this just sort of slots into position. There will be screws going through the seat cover here and through the back here in a couple of places to keep the seat in place. And then if we just look at this bit, you can sort of see that there's like shark mouths cut in here, so this is producing a vertical load down onto the spar carry through, or the seat mount. So we've got a nice vertical load going down, rather than it trying to push it forward. That it would, if we didn't have that shark mouth bit there, it would try to push this forward with a rocking motion. I don't want that. So this needs to be bonded, but I'm not going to keep it all this weight. We don't need all this. So I'm going to be cutting into here a couple of large lightning holes. The loads are going to be into here and here. The majority of the loads going through the front to rear members, and a little bit just at the top there, but it's mainly at these points here where the load is, so I can afford to chop quite chunky holes in these places here. Well, there is the seat support. It's just resting in place. I run out of time for this week for bonding it, but you can see the two lightning holes in there which have been routed to make them nice and rounded, and that also takes out yet a bit more weight. So chopped out a good chunk of weight there in the area we don't need it, and there'll be about there on both sides will be a screw going into one of those brass inserts just to hold the seat pan down, this whole seat pan down at the back end. I think will probably be 3, I'll go maybe 4, I'll have to do the checking. Going into this cross member, which is non-structural really, it's just there as a sort of seat support, and I need to make up the little braces which will go into here in this gap that will come out for the rear face to be sitting on. The ply here is just going to be taking forward and lateral loads, longitudinal and lateral loads. The vertical loads will be taken by a component going down here, bridging this little section here, sort of triangular piece, bonded to the bulkhead, this cross piece and the lower cross piece, so they can transfer the loads of the heavy landing or arrival. And this front section here won't have any gusseting going along the back face. The idea is that should it break away, it won't take out the primary structure of this front spar carry through. It shouldn't have any loads in that direction anyway. It should just be vertical loads going into it, which the front spar carry through should be able to cope with. So there we go. That's it for the week. Our wired up bits and pieces going through for the rudder controls, and the various fair leads which we've created or put in position, and measurements taken at the back end here for where it comes through, so we can get the height right for the slot, and the fair lead there going through the ply skin. Hope you enjoyed this, and catch you again next week. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. You can subscribe or even hit the little bell notification for future videos. Any comments would be appreciated, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Remember, go fly and feel the sky.